Welcome to The Edge of Show, your gateway to the Web3 revolution. We explore the cutting edge of blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, ordinals, DeFi, gaming, and entertainment, plus how AI is reshaping our digital future. Join us as we bring you visionaries and disruptors pushing boundaries in this digital renaissance. This show is for the dreamers, disruptors, and doers that are pumped about where innovation meets culture. This is where the future begins.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Edge of Show. I'm Josh Krieger, your co-host, and we're live in Las Vegas at Bitcoin Las Vegas. And we have a number of top-notch guests and other hosts as well as in the show. It's another production of the Edge of Company, a quickly growing media ecosystem empowering the pioneers of Web3 tech and culture, responsible for other groundbreaking endeavors like Outer Edge Innovation Festival. And today's show features the one and only Brittany Kaiser, who's a serial entrepreneur and expert in technology and legislative reform. She's been a friend of ours and a frequent collaborator over the years. She's CEO of Chateaushi and co-founder of Own Your Own Data Foundation. And Brittany's the best-selling author of Targeted, the subject of a Netflix documentary, The Great Hack, which is a really cool documentary. I encourage you guys to check it out. And she's a global speaker on blockchain, data rights, AI ethics. We should mention that Edge of Company is an advisor to Chateaushi. We're really excited to be part of this project. And it's a Web3 marketplace that uses blockchain to preserve and finance historical real estate. And it lets users invest in, visit, and enjoy historic properties through tokenization of the CASL token. Did I get all that right, Brittany?
Oh, yeah.
It's so great to hang out here in Vegas, to see you IRL, and catch up on this pioneering project, which I remember hearing about years ago. And we were talking before the show how in a lot of ways you've always been ahead of the times. In this particular case, RWAs, that acronym wasn't even around when you were thinking about fractionalization of the CASL. So really excited to sort of go really deep into that process. But I think, it's been a while since we had your show. We should at least cover your sort of historical whistleblower journey a little bit and how that inspired your path into crypto. So maybe you can just touch on that briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me here. So great to be at Bitcoin 2025 Las Vegas. Amazing. Let's start a little bit from the beginning, which is that, my career began in archaeology, which will be important for later in this conversation. But when I realized that was a lot of fundraising and digging holes, I went to law school and became a human rights lawyer. Once I started working in tech with a legal background, my first job in tech was at a now quite well-known company called Cambridge Analytica. And I ended up becoming a whistleblower mostly because I saw that the way that tech functions, the way that the global data industry functions, is inherently incredibly extractive, and using data for targeting people is really not congruent with human rights, civil rights, and a lot of our, political rights, I would say, or, federal election law. So I became a whistleblower. Luckily, I was a human rights lawyer. I did understand whistleblowing law, so I knew how to undertake that process and then also use that to find a way to change things, which for me was to go full-time into the crypto industry by helping co-author a lot of the first laws on blockchain technology. What I saw was wrong at Cambridge Analytica was that there was no legislation or regulation or a lot of technical capabilities for tracking and traceability of data, transparency of data usage, consent and permission structures for data transfers, ways to actually own the data itself and own the monetary value that your data creates in this multi-trillion-dollar ecosystem. So I moved to Wyoming after I quit Cambridge Analytica to work with Caitlin Long and all the legislators there. And since we've written over 60 laws on digital assets, Bitcoin, blockchain, digital asset definitions, including that your digital assets are your intangible personal property. So the first true data and digital asset ownership law that we wrote in 2018.
Amazing. And I guess the Genius bill was just passed, and I think is an important step in the progression of a more balanced approach to regulating our industry. What's your take on how that came about, and what's your perspective on some of the other legislation coming down the pike? There's mixed sentiments on it in terms of where it's at now, in terms of where it needs to be to really help the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because I have spent a lot of my career in legislative drafting and lobbying and working with legislators and regulators to figure out how to define certain aspects of technology that can both protect people, but also empower entrepreneurs to add the value that they can bring to the economy with their businesses. And it's a hard line to balance. It especially has been over the past 10 or 15 years when in general, most government officials were not super briefed on technology. They didn't always have someone that just did tech policy on their team in order to follow a very rapidly growing industry. So it's been very difficult to get any legislation through besides in the state of Wyoming and a handful of Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin focused bills in other states. But Wyoming is the only part of the US that has a comprehensive legislative framework. And we've had nothing so far on the federal level. Not that anyone hasn't tried. We've tried so hard, but it's always been politicized by one side or the other. And so the Genius Act was genius, you could say, because they created a bill, and I actually wasn't a part of the Genius Act co-authoring this time, but what they did was take a bill that was inherently a pro-US dollar bill and find a way to increase dominance of the US dollar globally by defining the use of stablecoins and allowing the usage of dollar stablecoins officially. It wasn't like it wasn't already being used, of course, but these definitions in law allow it to be legal on the federal side and even for banks and anyone else that is federally regulated to use these technologies in a more official way and have specific rules and guidelines for even the creation of additional dollar peg stable coins. So I think that's incredibly exciting, and it's a lot less controversial. That's why we're getting it through, because anyone in Congress can understand why it's good to use a technology that promotes the US dollar as the international reserve currency.
And fast forward, I mean, are you sort of optimistic some of the new legislation planned for this upcoming session of Congress can be adapted in a way that sort of really progresses things, or is it still sort of, a critical point in terms of the mission and figuring that out?
So I think we're going to see this fall a lot of movement and a lot of introduction of federal law, not just on digital assets and crypto, but on data, on AI. And in all of these federal bills, I believe that data ownership is going to be key to a lot of these laws, starting at the basics, because there's only so much you can do talking about encrypted data or data points that are in algorithms, if you can't talk about the data itself first. So being able to define what data is, who owns it, the consent and permission structures that allow it to be moved and shared and monetized. So for me, that has been my obsession for the past 10 years, because most of the conversations about AI ethics and digital assets and crypto all come back to data ownership and the transfer and sharing of data. So on the legal side, I'm very excited to see what's coming out. If you are listening to this and you don't know the way that the new administrations normally work, is that as soon as people are appointed after the new president is inaugurated, then they usually have a period of time, usually like 6 months or so, to write out the strategy for the rest of their time in office and to then go implement that. So it's most likely that around September and October, we're going to see a lot of the heads of different U.S. Agencies are going to publish their strategy for the next 4 years, like David Sachs publishing the National Technology, AI, and Crypto Strategy, and then series of RFPs that will be available for people to apply for, and in general, a lot of other initiatives, including supportive legislation, will be introduced.
Yeah, thanks for giving us a sense of what's to come here, and definitely exciting times. We'll have to keep this conversation rolling. Getting your perspective on all this is really great. Um, So, how does someone go from like owning your own data to owning your own castle? Like when did the idea of sort of RWAs, in sort of whatever you called them or thought of them as previously, because that's kind of a relatively new term, when did that sort of come up in your mind in terms of the next evolution of owning your data?
Yeah, so for me, I have this lifelong passion for history and historic preservation. When I was younger, I was obsessed with ancient cultures, and whenever we traveled anywhere, I always wanted to go to the landmarks and monuments and do the historic tours and learn about all of these, incredible historic estates and experiences.
Yeah, that was me too. Like, if I had the choice between a museum, an art gallery, or like some sort of historical estate, I'd always prefer the historical estate.
Exactly.
Because then you get art, but you get this experience of living in the world of someone, that had been there before.
Exactly. And I was always just so drawn to that. And I thought that I would spend my life as an archaeologist. I was going to university for archaeology, and I took a summer job as an archaeologist outside of London doing a Roman dig. And that's when I mentioned earlier that I quickly realized, with the assistance of the other archaeologists I was working with, that digging holes and fundraising for the work that you're doing is a very hard life path. And the archaeologists I was working with said, you you and your IQ should go out and make some money and bring it back to archaeology. And so I took that quite seriously. I decided to go to law school, and because I was at law school in the United Kingdom, I was lucky enough to know a lot of people who had inherited ancestral homes. And so these places had been built for their like 10x great grandfather by the king at that time 1,000 years ago, and had always been in their family. Now, what an amazing opportunity, but also a lot of my friends that were studying to be journalists, doctors, or nurses, like normal jobs. They weren't going to be serial exit entrepreneurs. They weren't going to be investment bankers. They inherited the castle or the manor home or whatever landmark or monument, but they didn't inherit cash, and they weren't in a career where they were going to make a lot of cash.
And then you learn about the taxes and the upkeep, and then you're like, it becomes an albatross.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes this huge emotional and financial burden where you are responsible for your entire family's history over so many generations, but you don't have the actual money to stop it from falling apart and becoming a depreciating asset. So I saw multiple of my friends have to sell their ancestral homes, and I thought, a bank can't give you a loan. And now that I'm obviously a professional in this space, I know a bank can't give you a loan if you don't have a cash flow positive business model, because they know you're just going to keep on sinking money into the restoration, renovation, upkeep, commercialization of the place. And so I thought, this is something I would love to solve. This seems like an archaeology problem that is solvable. And it was only when I started working full-time in tech and I saw a lot of my serial exit entrepreneur friends, especially in crypto, really want to spend a lot of time in castles. And that meant one of two things. They were either buying castles by trading in their Bitcoin for much less than what it's worth today, and realizing they don't know how to take care of castles. and it becoming a huge problem.
So I think I qualify as excited about this. If the castle has air conditioning, good Wi-Fi, and comfortable beds. So
yeah, it's more of a Starlink type of thing these days, right? So you can get Wi-Fi, but not in the traditional way. But the second was that a lot of my friends were spending an extraordinary amount of money renting out castles for their crypto companies' retreat or their birthday party or a conference or their wedding.
In fact, Trevor Jones, a really famous artist in the space, has Kevin.
Oh, I went to his party last
castle
year.
party, right?
Yeah, I know. That's actually where I went to one of the first crypto castle parties in 2017 that inspired me to start this company. Funnily enough, same castle.
I was just messaging with Trevor.
Yeah,
cool.
Same castle. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. Actually, the architects that built that castle where Trevor throws the party also designed and built the Louvre. So really famous architect. He only did like 2 extraordinary places in France. So it's just that castle and yeah, the Louvre.
So cool. That's a fun fact. So like, all right, this idea of RWAs on Bitcoin, which you've said is like, the next frontier. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we've got the immutability of Bitcoin, and people have sort of all acknowledged if you want something permanently stored, Bitcoin's the way to do it.
Yeah.
But for something like an RWA, why does it make sense?
Yeah, for me, it's really, these physical historic estates, these real world assets are, kind of the most timeless and sustaining physical assets that we have that are human made, human built. So it makes the most sense for it to be on the kind of most historical, most resilient, most sustainable chain. And for me as a lawyer that has worked in the digital asset legal space for nearly a decade now, I know that Bitcoin is the only digital asset that is widely accepted globally and widely defined globally. Whether it's properly regulated or not is another question, but most countries do have a very legitimate definition of Bitcoin and have in practice used it as a property or a commodity. We know what it is, and a lot of the other assets have not yet been defined. Now, do I think they will be? Sure,
So,
but not yet.
so did you give any thought to, putting this fractalization project on other chains, or was it just clearly Bitcoin all the way? And then a follow-up to that is, what have been the tactical hurdles you've had to overcome? What does the technology stack look like to do this?
Yeah, so when I first wanted to do this in 2017, I was going to call it CASL coin. We still now do have a CASL coin, CASL is the ticker. But I wanted to call it that back then and start a CASL DAO where we would launch a token economy, and everyone that had a castle or had a service they could provide to a castle would be able to put proposals to the DAO and get them funded. Now, regulatorily in 2017, that was nearly impossible. And as an American, I was not trying to get sued by the SEC to try to help European aristocracy with their inheritance. So I really felt like, okay, we'll give it some years. I'll work on the legislative side. Once I felt like we had regulatory clarity on Bitcoin, I started a big Bitcoin mining company that I took public on NASDAQ, and that was super exciting.
Yeah,
And so
congrats for that, by the way.
Thank
I remember
you.
that moment when you shared the picture and you NASDAQ, and it was one of the first companies to go public, right?
Yeah, it was
In the
very
mining industry.
it was very exciting, and the first 100% renewable one. So that was very exciting, and I became very Bitcoin focused, mostly because of the regulation and legislation around it. And so I got deeper into the Bitcoin space, trying to figure out exactly where I would be able to eventually build my castles on chain company. I knew that this was coming at some point, and I was researching and working on it in the background. And in 2021, I thought, well, we started to see a little bit more legislative clarity, a little bit more case law around decisions that had come out. And I thought, well, actually, I think it's possible to start doing this. So I started doing the research. Okay, well, if you are going to put real estate on chain, it's likely going to be security tokens, which are now getting defined in law in Europe. So in 2021, I started spending a lot of time in France and Switzerland and the UK, where I've spent a lot of my adult life anyway, with all of the top crypto lawyers there, thinking, okay, well, how are we going to put real estate on chain according to some of the new legal definitions, and spend 4 years doing the legal and regulatory research and structuring work. And for me, that was incredibly exhilarating and exciting and time consuming, but we finally came to what the architecture could look like, especially in Switzerland, where now you can even take security tokens public on a public securities exchange. If you don't know that, BX Swiss, which is like the NYSE of Switzerland, got their DLT license. So now you can even take those on a public regular securities exchange, not a security token exchange built by a crypto company, like an actual securities exchange.
And meanwhile, like
So-
you're a new mom this whole time, and I feel like your child probably has some sort of like castle DNA at this point.
Oh my God, definitely. He went to his first castle when he was 3 months old, and He's been to over 100 castles now.
Well,
He's
he's
been
more
in 22
castles.
countries.
He's been more castles than me. That's amazing. So he's been part of the adventure. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So obviously non-financial advice, but you have a public token sale coming soon.
It's live now, actually.
Oh, it's live.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
cool.
can go on Chateaushi.com, and if you want to participate, on the top, there's a link that you can click. We partnered with Bitcoin OS and Sovereign, who built us a beautiful fundraising platform, and will be one of the first live assets on the Bitcoin operating system, which is really exciting for this to be a Bitcoin native asset. And because Bitcoin OS allows full interoperability with all of the top chains, you'll also be able to trade this on Solana or Ethereum or Base if you want to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really cool. And I guess you've also, this is not just about one castle. This is about like over 100 castles.
Yeah,
So
it is.
and you've worked with like some major brands involved in this too. So tell us a little bit more about like the full scope of your ecosystem today.
For sure. So, in order to comprehensively address the problem of lack of sustainable financing for historic real estate, we had to create a full marketplace. This marketplace has three main components. One is, of course, deal flow. So it's a booking system. We're working with one of the members of the founding team of Airbnb and one of the founders of the first Booking.com before Booking.com in France. And they're obviously completely amazing. And we've built out our first MVP, which is live on Chateaushi.com, where you can currently book over 40 of the castles in our consortium. We currently have over 100 and over 500 that have asked to be a part of the program. So slowly onboarding more and more.
And it's can you book with like you have to book with the token, or can you book with like a credit card too?
You can book with a card too. You just get discounts if you use the token, and special perks for the experiences while you're there, and the tours and the Michelin star dinners that are nearby, or even a chef coming to your castle. Like there's a lot of different stuff that you can book. It's not just a room. You can also book the entire estate. Some of them allow just rooms if they're historic hotels, but some of them are private family homes owned by branches of the royal family in that country. And these are not publicly bookable. They've just opened them to our ecosystem. So it's very, very special to have the opportunity to access some of these incredible historic places. So yeah.
Do you think you'll work with like mainstream booking sites like like Expedia at some point as well? Or
Yeah, Expedia has taken crypto for a while.
right,
So
right. That's
absolutely.
like why not sort of have broader distribution channels, right?
For sure.
I guess they wouldn't be able to use the token, but they can still have the experience, and it'll still simulate the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, in general, we are very open to all kinds of partnerships, as long as our clients are open to those partnerships. So some of our clients only want our members to be able to stay there, and that's why they don't list on Booking.com or Expedia or Airbnb as an example. You'll find a lot of castle owners are a little bit allergic to the big public access of their places.
It's just going to depend on the like you'll have different business rules for different castles.
Literally every estate is completely different, so we make sure it's bespoke for them. So the second layer of our app, besides the deal flow for bookings and events and tours, is the services for estate owners. So we assist with commercial business development for these places by creating a cash flow positive revenue generating business model that can be everything from developing a longevity spa to a Michelin star chef coming and doing the menu at their restaurant, to helping them grow food on their land that feeds the restaurant, whatever it is that makes sense for their place. It could even just be marketing, branding, advertising that they need. So we can help them with all of that. We have tons of partners so that we can be pretty infinitely scalable on that. We introduce them to the partners and take a commission on that. And then once they have a business model, they might already have one when they get to us, but we make sure that they have this business model so that then they're eligible for financing. On the financing side, we can offer them traditional access to finance through our banking partners and our fintech partners, or we can undertake a tokenization for them. So we can tokenize access rights to their place, or we can tokenize equity to their place. what we do is we suggest 49% or less of their place that we would tokenize the equity to, so they can never lose control of the property. And all of their investors then will also bring deal flow to the place, and be able to access all the other castles in our network.
So cool. So I'm gonna ask a question I know that you've probably been asked a lot and that you've thought about, which is sort of the virtualization, the augmented reality experience of these castles for people that might not be able to get on a plane and go see some of these castles at least anytime soon. The metaverse hasn't sort of materialized in quite the way we had hoped. At the same time, there's some promising indicators that there's still use cases for using that type of technology. So what are your thoughts on sort of the digitalization of these castles and sort of what that experience could look like for members?
Absolutely. So we do have digital strategy as one of the commercial advisory services that we provide to these estates. We already have 3 clients where we are working on metaverse and gaming products for them. So whether they have like huge concerts that they throw and they want to stream those on Fortnite, or they are more educational and they want something to reach out to the younger generation, we can building something in Roblox for one of our clients. Obviously, other Web3 enabled metaverses we're excited about working with as well, but we're starting with the biggest ones, Roblox and Fortnite, where we know that millions of people that will unlikely be able to go to the castles physically will be able to experience these places digitally and be able to bring an extra revenue stream.
It's really interesting. I'm sure there's like some castle owners that would never want a shooting game experience at the castle, and others that are like, sure, why not?
Exactly. Literally, we've been offered by Street Fighter to like license some of our clients' castles, and if our clients are okay with people that are with Street Fighter being in the foreground and their castle being in the background, then great. It's another licensing fee for them.
Yeah, and some of them may like that, but not like Hello Kitty. It's their own. You're customizing experience to what they see as their vision. That's really cool.
Let's take a pause to shout out one of our favorite partners. For tech innovators facing legal challenges, Zuba Lawler is your go-to law firm. They focus on understanding your technology and business model before addressing legal requirements. Specializing in blockchain, AI, VR, AR, quantum computing, and more, Zuba Lawler offers expert guidance in capital raising, IP transactions, M&A, litigation, and compliance. Visit zuberlawler.com, that's ZUBERLAWLER.com, for cutting-edge legal solutions.
The other question I had for you, Brittany, was with regard to sort of independent, high-value artifacts that are in some of these castles. I think there's sort of additional RWA use cases there. How are you thinking about those particular opportunities?
Yeah, so we have 2 different partnerships in that regard. One is to first be able to value some of these antiquities, and some of them can be tokenized and then lent against on chain, either for personal family finance, for inheritance purposes. We also have partners that can tokenize and fractionalize fine art and other types of antiquities with Sotheby's and other partners, so that we can bring liquidity to other assets besides the actual physical castle and land. In the end, we're there to help the family, the foundation, the Ministry of Culture that happens to own these places to have more sustainable financing, so that there's many years of runway and a treasury to work with. So this doesn't constantly, every quarter, every year, become a huge financial stress, and where the owners of these places have to choose whether they're going to redo the roof or like fix one of the turrets. Like, they'll actually have the money to do all of that and more. Marketing and more commercializing their place and adding on, racket sports, equestrian sports, like things that will make the entire place more beneficial to them and their families, and of course all their visitors.
Amazing. So this is a huge endeavor, and I know you have unlimited energy because we share a sort of obsession with peptides and longevity. But I gotta imagine you need like a A-list team to support this, and that you'll be growing that team. What does the current organization look like, and what are the plans sort of after the TGE in terms of, what's the type of team required to do all this?
Yeah, of course. Well, we're dual headquartered in Paris and Zug, so our main top company is in Switzerland, and our real estate management company is based in Paris. Uh, we have teams in both places, and a lot of us like to travel often, but the majority of our people are based in Paris or in Switzerland. I'm based in the US, but I spend about half my year in France and Switzerland. And so for me, we have some of the best people in the business, some of the best people in luxury hospitality, private members clubs, historic real estate, family office, and historic real estate management, the digitization of real estate into booking platforms. So we've really covered a lot of the expertise needed to do this particular job, and most of my team are not crypto people. So we have like
Traditional
I would say like
booking
40% of us are crypto people, and the rest come from the luxury hospitality, luxury brand, private members club, like the hospitality industry. But they're the best in the business, and so being able to teach them about how to use these technologies in order to make these incredible things happen has been a wonderful partnership.
It's so exciting. And when can I book a room in a castle? Like, is it
Right now,
right now?
you can go to Chateaushi.com and choose your dates and put in a request for one of the castles. And
I mean, I'm
we just check with the owner, and then we get back to you immediately. So they're not immediate book because they are like royal family homes. So we do have to check. They have more traditional
I
booking
might have to
processes.
test this out. I'm going to be in Paris in June.
Amazing.
And I don't know where I'll be yet in July. So maybe I'll have to check out one of these castles.
Definitely check it out. All of our places are in the UK, France, and Italy right now, although we've had inquiries from over 17 countries, including the Ministry of Culture of India, Egypt, Mexico, all of the other top tourist destinations where people go there to see natural wonders of the ancient world.
Hey listeners, are you ready to amplify your voice in a digital world? Introducing .podcast domains, your gateway to the future of online identity. Whether you're a creator, a company, or just someone with big ideas, .podcast is for you. Own your unique digital identity, connect securely, and explore hundreds of apps with no renewal fees. Don't wait for someone else to claim your name. Secure your .podcast domain today and be part of the next generation of content creation. Visit get.unstoppabledomains.com/podcast to get started. Again, that's get.unstoppabledomains.com/podcast. Your voice, your rules, your identity.
Very, very cool. Really exciting. One last question on my mind, is just how are you specifically leveraging AI today and planning to leverage AI for this castle experience?
Well, we have our own AI agent called Helix. And if you say, hey, Helix, Helix will help you book any of your historic vacation from the luxury drivers or the helicopters or the light jets to get out to your estate, to your entire historic stay experience, from the restaurants you're going to dine at, the chefs you're going to use, the tours you're going to take. So that's really exciting. We've been working on that for a while. Our CTO, Gus Fraser, is incredible. And so, try out Helix. We have the MVP of him available on Chateaushi.com on our web app. So if you need any help booking any of the castles, please do ask him for assistance. He's your little British butler, available anytime.
There you go. So we talked about the token opportunity. How else can folks that are excited about this get involved besides obviously using the product? What types of partners, community support are you looking for?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, the important thing about Chateaushi is that it is a growing community and people getting engaged in this topic, that we can all own our history, and it is a collective responsibility to take care of our history, not just to visit it and pay your 20 euros for a ticket, but to really engage more deeply in what it looks like to be a patron of history and think of it in a more serious way, instead of staying at your brand name 4 or 5-star hotel when you're traveling, that you could actually intentionally stay at a historic hotel or at a privately owned historic home, and your money could go to the preservation of that place. That's kind of the revolution that I want to bring about. It's a way I've always traveled myself. I choose the historic place because I have a better, more exciting experience while I'm there, and I want to make that easier and democratize access to that for everybody.
I'm so excited about all of this, and eager to try out the product. And just thank you for continuing to sort of be on the edge and do really cool things that make a difference for the world, using the situation that you had as an opportunity to create a light to the real world use cases of blockchain that I've always been excited about. And to think that you shared this idea with me like several years ago, to see where it's come now. It's just great to be here with you in this interview and to be part of your journey. So thanks so much.
No, thank you so much. I mean, I think the first time I talked to you about this was still like, a twinkle in my eye. And right now we're literally tokenizing a 5-story historic building in the center of Paris. So it's so exciting to be at this stage, and we're excited for all of you guys to get involved.
Absolutely. So we mentioned the website, but just let's just give everyone your X account as well for the project, and encourage everyone to follow and support what you're doing.
Absolutely. So my X account for me, Brittany Kaiser, is at Own Your Data Now. And our company Chateaushi is at Chateaushi. So it's CHATEAUSHI.
Awesome. And for those of you that are listening, Brittany has a rocking Own Your Data necklace on. So you might have to go to our YouTube channel or Spotify video version to check out her garb today. Thanks, Brittany, for hanging out.
Cheers.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much.
We've reached the outer limit at the edge of show for today. Thanks for exploring with us. We have room for more adventurers on our starship, so invite your friends and cool strangers to join our journey. If you're among the hundreds of thousands following us on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or watching us on Myco or YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, rate us, and make an awesome comment too. And don't forget to pass this episode along to a friend or two who would benefit from it. Doubling back to again, recommend checking out myco.io, where you can watch The Edge of Show and earn for your time and attention. That's myco.io. Don't forget to visit theedgeofshow.com. The is part of the domain name, where you can learn more about collaborating with us, and also subscribe to the Edge of Weekly newsletter for the latest Web3 news, events, and show drops. In addition, connect with us on all major social platforms by searching for The Edge of Show. Join the exciting conversations happening online. Lastly, be sure to tune in next time for more great Web3 and AI content. Until then, keep pushing the boundaries. Thanks again for hanging out with us today. The views and opinions expressed on The Edge of Show reflect solely those views and opinions of the show host and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. Our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. From time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of these links. Refer to our website, www.edgeofnft.com, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, and privacy policy.